In musical theatre, we generally sing notes as written. We don't mess with the score. But in a contemporary show, in concert or cabaret, or even at an audition where there's more leeway to make a song our own, we might want to add a run between notes or between phrases, or to vocalise freely over an instrumental section of a song. But if you're intimidated by runs or you're not sure where to start, you're not alone. So I'm going to simplify it. In this video, I'm going to give you a foolproof method for choosing notes in the run that sound improvised. And just a hint, it's based on a scale that all singers should know, and it's not major or minor. Then in part 2, we'll put it all together, break it into building blocks, and give it some feel. Hi, I'm Scott. You're watching Inside Musicals, the channel for all things musical theatre. Now, if you've done any singing at all, you've probably heard of major and minor scales, probably used them in a warm-up. But in a song, in a run, those scales tend to sound too formal, too structured, too classical to sound improvised. I love you. But what if I told you there was another scale that naturally sounded more open, more relaxed, less formal? Wouldn't that be perfect for runs? Okay, so what is this magical scale? Drum roll, please. Did we add a drum roll in post? The pentatonic scale. I love you. The what? Pentatonic. And no, not invented by these guys. So it's penta, meaning 5. There are 5 notes per octave, compared to 7 notes for a major or minor scale. And the easiest way to remember a pentatonic scale is just play the black notes on a piano. Of course, like any scale, you can transpose it, so it doesn't have to be just black notes. It could be white ones too, as long as the intervals stay the same. But if you don't have a piano handy, stick around to the end and I'll give you another way to remember how the pentatonic scale sounds. So what makes this scale so different? Well, with only 5 notes per octave, there are gaps between those groupings of 2 and 3 notes, so it breaks up the pattern. So in the context of a song, the ear doesn't perceive it as a scale. It sounds improvised, even though there's a structure. So our first task is to learn the structure, to commit that scale to memory, so we don't have to think about it in part 2 when we get to the feel and the rhythm. And for this exercise, I want you to group the notes into 2s on the word wo, so we're articulating from the jaw and the lips as much as we are from the throat. And notice how that subtle movement gives each note clarity, because a run should never sound like a blur, or it's something else. Then do the same thing, but go up to the octave, beyond the octave, and notice how that pattern repeats. Start and end on different notes, maybe even speed up while maintaining clarity. A couple of really cool things about a pentatonic scale, and maybe this is my inner music geek, but it does explain why it's so flexible, is that none of the notes really clash because there are no semitones. And because it contains intervals of a major triad, with an added 2nd and 6th, and a minor triad, with an added 4th and minor 7th, it's flexible across both major and minor chords depending on your starting note. Another fun fact, pentatonic scale doesn't really want to resolve back to its own tonic as strongly as, say, a major or minor scale. So we can start and end on any note and it still sounds right. Which gives us a clue about how to use it in a song. So here's the approach. Find your starting note, where you want to add a run, and then don't overthink it. Don't have to ask, what key am I in, what chord am I on? Trust your ears, your instincts are probably better than you think. So let's say our original melody is this. I love you. Now I want to add my run between the first 2 notes of that phrase. So I sing the first note, then listening to my chord to find my tonal center, I move down stepwise through the pentatonic scale until I reach my destination note. And that could be up or down depending on your melody. I love you. Now, if you're not confident with the feel of a run just yet, that's okay. We're getting to that in part 2. As long as you're being deliberate about the pitch and the clarity, you're setting up your technique for later. Now, if the interval of your melody is too short for any significant run, or if you want to get a bit fancy with it, there's no reason you can't overshoot that note and then come back to it through the scale. I love you. The point is, a pentatonic scale is a useful starting point because it's flexible and modular. Are there other approaches? Sure. You could explore a blues scale. You could just wing it and hope that instinct kicks in. But the pentatonic scale works for almost any vocal style from the jazz age onwards. Rock, pop, jazz, soul, gospel, and yes, even musical theatre when necessary. Now, once you get your head around the notes and the pattern of the scale, come back for part 2 where we'll break it down into some common phrases and we'll finesse it with a little je ne sais quoi of rhythm and spontaneity. But before you go, here's that bonus tip I promised earlier. If you ever forget what a pentatonic scale sounds like, think back to The Wizard of Oz. I could while away the hours, conferring with the flowers, consulting with the rain. Ba-dum, ba-da-ba-da-dum. Pentatonic scale. Ba-dum, ba-da-ba-da-dum. Now let me know if you found this helpful. But for now, thank you so much for watching. I do love you. Now get out there. Be brilliant.